Because a person that has a generally negative mindset, in a bad situation, it's the difference between life and death. There's a knowledge base that you've built in your head, that there's things about science that you know that I'll never know. Or there's some niche things about math that you know that I'll never know. And you don't have to sort of spend my time thinking about that. You already paid the price to burn those models in your head, So, but it wouldn't be hard for you to maintain that. You kind of maintain that on autopilot while you go, build a new skill set for something else. And then you could kind of maintain that on autopilot and go build another skill set with something else, It's no more complicated than that. And then, the people that don't want to pay that price to begin with, they don't have the discipline or they don't have the willpower to, go do those difficult things or have a high level of proficiency at anything. Well, then just expect a very shit outcome in life. Just, wouldn't that be very reasonable that a person that doesn't want to pay the price to do some of the things that you or others in the room are willing to do, but they just expect a very shit outcome in life? And I think about you, and even when you're not here, I've told stories about you a couple times, and I think about that as like the main skill set you have is not swimming. Fuck your swimming. The main skill set you have is not your fucking swimming. The main skill set that you have is like, how to fucking be a big time winner at something. The price that you have to pay to be a big time winner or to be a elite in whatever other endeavor that you get involved in later in life. And if you applied that same discipline in a business context or an investing context or your dating life or whatever the fuck else that you get yourself obsessed about, you'll be excellent at that too. And you have numerous reference points, no doubt, in your head of, when you don't feel like it, how to make yourself go do it anyway, and laugh at yourself at the same time. So, and that's the main skill set you have. And, and it's so burned into your head that you couldn't get rid of it if you wanted to. So, that's why I have such confidence in you that, or I speak so fondly of you. It's like, that's an amazing skill set to have. Most people don't. Most people will never understand that. So it's only some weirdo that, obsessed about something for a long period of time, like I did or you did or a few other people here, that it's a whole different type of life. It's a whole different type of life. Somebody else goes, I'm a little tired, I'll do it tomorrow. Well, I don't feel like it right now. It's not even, would you be scared to race against a guy who's like, sometimes he don't feel like training, so he don't. Like, you already know the outcome.
Right.
The people that don't find good mentors are going to stay so incredibly dumb. And they'll be so dumb, it'll be back to the Dunning-Kruger effect. They'll be so dumb, they'll be literally too stupid to know how far behind they are. And by the time that they might have a moment of awakening, at age 46 or 55 or something, they'll be so far behind, it'll be too painful for them to admit. That one moment of clarity will be the final moment, because they're so far behind, it'd be too painful for them to admit how badly they fucked up. And they would rather just maintain the status quo and die in their, I hate to say blissful ignorance, because ignorance is quite painful, not blissful. They'll die in their painful ignorance, but they'll try to suppress that thought, literally a Freudian suppression mechanism to beat that thought back down and just go back to whatever they've been up to the last few decades when they could have been doing so much more. And we said this yesterday. It's like the value of mentorship is like, when Socrates spent time with Plato, and Plato mentored Aristotle, and Aristotle mentored Alexander, and he conquered the whole fucking world and went further than anyone ever went before him. Went to lands that no one from back in Macedonia, modern day Greece, no one knew that shit existed in some of the territories that he went to. And why didn't you, how long did you spend studying physics, 9, 10 years academically? How long did you spend to get a PhD in that topic?
Well, I majored in physics in college, that's 4 years. Summer I do work for professors, and then the PhD was 7 years.
Oh, only 11 years. Why didn't you just invent that yourself? No, after 11 years, by the way, do you know everything there is to know about physics, or you just have a foundation to then go play around and experiment and be inquisitive with?
First couple of years of my postdoc was choppy. I wasn't as efficient as I would have liked. I was recognizing this in real time. And much better physicists now get a lot more done in a shorter period of time now than when I was 30 years old.
Just for a teaching example for the group, what's a more accurate statement? After 11 years of strenuous academics, was it more true that you had a good base foundation, or that you were a very high-level expert?
Base foundation.
Oh, so after 11 years, you had a good foundation to start doing something with. So why'd you spend that 11 years, bro? Why didn't you just figure it out by yourself? Exactly. That's the only answer. That's the only reasonable answer. Yeah. That's the only reasonable answer. So it's that silly that why don't you just invent algebra by yourself? Why don't you just invent physics by yourself? It's that stupid of a question. So the person that thinks when I say that business is a team sport, or that your dating life is a team sport, the person that says, "Oh, I'm gonna figure it out by myself," man, it's such an extraordinary level of buffoonery. It's
Berkeley, you'd have these homeless guys kind of wandering your campus, these little pamphlets describing gravitational relativity and everything. You'd love them.
Yeah. When I hear this new age woo-woo talk, including from a couple of my friends that I'll omit their names, but when I hear this woo-woo type talk about energy and the how the universe works and energy, I think it's such an extraordinary disrespect for the lineage of people like you that studied. You would know so much about energy or the universe that you can barely have a conversation with a mere mortal, even if they have a high IQ. You have to dumb it down and think of simplified models to explain something like that, even to a very smart person, let alone some dummy that the guy with the pamphlet, or some fucking hippie that's like, oh yeah, man, energy and blah, blah, blah. And talk about it as if there's some wisdom in what the fuck they're saying, which is it's just really the blatherings of an insane person, more or less, in my opinion.
Yeah, energy is such a useful concept in science. Quantum mechanics is such a useful concept. And so many woo, new age people like to use the word energy and the word quantum in their books, and it's garbage. It's like Scientology, basically.
They say, no, man, it's my spirituality, though. I have to hear this shit. You must have heard this plenty, too. But, no, man, but, yeah, you're talking about, like, the physical world, bro, but I'm talking about, the energy of my spirituality, man. This is someone with a dysfunctional brain, but an extraordinarily disrespectful to the thousands of years of scientific effort that came before them. You can see the curvature of the Earth when you're in a jet. My penthouse is high enough that I can see the curvature of the Earth when I look out the window. Literally, though, you can see that, and I don't want to talk about the body, the land feature outside, but you can see the curvature of the Earth when you look out the window of the condo. So that's amazing. Doesn't everybody, all of us, doesn't everybody, sometimes have like the false presumption that, oh, well, I know about blah, 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 so everybody else must know that too, And I think everybody that has like some subject matter expertise in much of anything, that they kind of take it for granted that the wisdom or knowledge that they've accumulated, they kind of discount that a little bit because you live with yourself every day and that's like your norm. So then a lot of times we have a propensity, again, unless you're a narcissist or a terribly arrogant person, a normal healthy person kind of has a propensity to discount that information because you kind of take it for granted because that's just your normal context or your normal base rate. All right? And then when you find somebody else that has, some knowledge or something, oh, that's, so profound, or oh, that's so interesting, then you oftentimes are going to be smarter or better off than they are, but you're just discounting yourself. I think a lot of professional people end up in this position that, finance people, professionals in general, finance, accounting, tech people, some doctor, some lawyer. Now, some doctors are doctors because they have a bit of a God complex, and there's that subset of them. But the people that are around, who do lawyers hang out with all day? Or who do tech nerds hang out with all day? Or engineers or finance people? They're always around other people like them. All of these well-paid professions. they're always hanging out with other people that are like them. And then they just say, well, everybody knows that, that's not true, you know? So, yeah, you know, it's a normative thing for like a person that's like reasonable and has a healthy psychology, be a normative thought to have. But no, you know, really, you know, marvel at the diversity of human intelligence or lack thereof. And, you know, see what the other people do. You know, look up and down that street, and you know, are there really that many people that are as competent as you in the areas that you're best at? Yeah, yeah, and it just is. It's just true. So, you know, just give yourself credit for the things that you're doing well, but you know, don't be presumptuous that because you have a particular taste or preference that it's like that everywhere. That there's wild variance in human taste and preference. You know, it's wild variance, unimaginable. You know, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter who you are or what you've done, you're still going to have to tell your story again and again about who you are and what you're up to. And, you know, a lot of people forget to say that. They're so used to being them, and they might have said, God, you know, I went out last week and I had to talk about myself, you know, 80 fucking times. And, you know, you get a fatigue from that. I'm not a great method actor at all. You know, I hate repeating the same fucking thing again and again. To me, it's just like it's mind-numbing to me to say the same thing again and again. So even guys that have been on boot camp half a dozen times with me, there's going to be a couple macro themes, but it's going to be different. It's going to be different. It's going to be different because I can't bring myself to say the same thing repetitively. So I found that for myself with dating stuff is because I can't tell the same story repetitive. My brain just doesn't want to do it, you know. So then I'm just like, well, she's going to have the Derek experience, like whatever that is today, you know? So then you just got to find a way to make it fun and playful, and it won't be scripted at all, which the opposite of that for me is I got pretty damn good at improv. I never took an improv class in my life, but I got pretty damn good at improv that 'cause whatever type of situation I'm in, I've probably been in some weird, unique confluence of circumstance before that I'm not going to run out of things to say. I'm not going to feel you know, awkward in a bad way. I'm not going to be shook by anything. It's going to be just fine, you know? Sure. Just be resigned to, well, this is what I'm doing, so I might as well enjoy it as best I can. That's really a useful thought, you know? There's a fellow named Viktor Frankl, some of you might know, and he spent 3.5 or so years in concentration camps back in World War II, and he was a PhD, he had a doctorate degree in psychology. And he was offered to pass because of his graduate degree. He could come to the States, but his parents and wife and so on couldn't. And he chose to stay in Europe with them, and that didn't turn out well. And so he spent about 3.5, close to 4 years in some concentration camps. And if you read his book, Man's Search for Meaning, if you're nerdy enough to catch a little note here and a little note there, you get the idea that about 1 in 27 people that followed his path survived, and about 26 out of 27 didn't make it. And he says sometimes that's because you were smart and you knew how to deal with people, and sometimes it was entirely arbitrary and you just got lucky. And it's hard to reconcile that with yourself, you know? And he said, you know, you got to tell yourself a story while you're there. So he later popularized a philosophic or psychological movement called logotherapy. Which, you know, a logo is just telling yourself a story or a narrative of, well, suffering in this place of how is my life going to be later, or what am I going to do later, and having that future image or future projection that inevitably is not true. Inevitably, it's a fantasy. But without that fantasy, you'd give up and die. And there's death all around you. And death isn't something that's distant in the future. Death is something that could happen this afternoon or in 5 minutes or next month. So that's not an esoteric concept in the context he was in. So, you know, you're gonna have to tell yourself a story of why am I doing this and why is this meaningful and what advantages this is going to give me later. And you might not get exactly the advantages that you planned for. Some of them will be better and some of them will be worse. But you're still going to have to tell yourself that story, and you might as well do it from a place of positivity, because a person that has a generally negative mindset, I would argue, and I'm right, that a person in those stressful situations that has a more negative mindset has more negative outcomes. 'Cause they're focused on surviving at best, and they're grumpy while they're doing it. And that person's immune system gives up earlier than a person that's telling themselves of like, well, I'm building this, and then I'm building that, and so on and so on and so on. And it lives their life with a bit of purpose and autonomy. And is every one of your fantasies going to work out right? No, they won't. But some of them will be way better than you even imagined. Some of your real life outcomes, if you think that way and take action, both together, if you can think about more optimistic outcomes, where's the opportunity here? Well, this is not exactly what I wished for, but here it is. Where's the opportunity here? And if you could just get focused on that, where's the opportunity here? And how could I have a couple laughs while we're doing it? That change. It's in a bad situation, it's the difference between life and death. In a concentration camp, that's the difference between you gave up and you died, or you were one of the survivors. And about the time you give yourself to it, you understand that, and a few other people here, about the time that you stop fighting it psychologically, you're like, well, I'm going to go do this no matter what. And since I'm going to go do it no matter what, I might as well be in the best mood I can be while I do it. I'm already resigned that I'm going to do the thing. There's no way that I'm not going to do the thing. I'm doing the thing. So I might as well be in the best mood I can be while I'm doing the thing. I'm sure you had some experience like this.
Right, and you start having fun when you're doing it too. It's kind of crazy. You're like, whoa, like this is actually pretty fun. Like once you surrender to it.
Yeah, about the time, great word. About the time you surrender that I'm doing this tough thing anyway. It doesn't matter what mood I'm in. I'm still going to do the thing. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. I'm still going to. What if the pool is 2 degrees colder today? Do they call off practice? Olympic trials are coming up next month. Are we going to call off practice because the heater isn't working in the pool? It's a couple degrees colder than normal? No, it just means your balls are going to be a bit more shriveled. But we're going to do the thing anyway. So about the time you just accept that, or as he said, surrender that, well, I'm doing it no matter what, you have an immense freedom then. A lot of that pressure and anxiety floats away, not in some woo-woo way, but very pragmatically. Your brain is just like, well, I guess I'm fucking doing it anyway. And a lot of that pressure and anxiety, and then all that energy that a guy spends feeling anxious, second guessing himself, all those that internal self-talk it's not helping you. When that goes away, all your faculties get focused on like, well, if I'm going to do it anyway, I might as well do it the best I can. So how do I win this? How do I do the best I can? Or what would be the optimal behavior for me to engage in? All right, let's go do that shit and see what happens. And that gets you into that positive feedback loop where good things start happening, and then more good things and more good things. And then the guy gets curious. He's like, well, shit, I did this and this and that. I didn't even know I could do that shit. If I did this and this and that, what else could I do? And then you double down on your efforts, and your outcomes start going more parabolic. You start having exponentially better outcomes. And I don't say that word loosely, I say it very precisely. You start having exponentially better outcomes. It's like you're a different person. When you live that way for about 6 months, then it's just burned into your brain for the rest of your life. You wouldn't be able to go back to the previous inferior model because you just know a better model. You don't have to remind yourself of it on a moment-to-moment basis. You just know a better model, and you accept that as the new fact or the new base rate normality in your head. You follow all that? Yeah? Is that useful?
Yeah, it's great.
Just do that. It's just changing one thought. Well, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it anyway. Might as well be in as good a mood as possible while I'm up to this. That's why I'm so cheery all the time.
And this mentorship networking that we've had so far with people that are as excited about their success as you are, it's incredible. There's nothing like it that I've ever seen. There's nothing like it that you can just go out and apply for. Really, this guy's filtered through all sorts of people to find some of the best. It's made my confidence rock solid, and I know that as soon as I make the decision to do something, I have the foundation set up to do whatever I want to do with my life. So there's so many different options that I have now. My confidence has gone way up, skyrocketed in fact. And I'd say going forward that I'm most excited about just knowing that I have a business structure going forward that I can apply and actually do something with.
If you didn't like this video, please feel free to unfollow. My clients and I celebrate when the wrong person leaves our lives. But if you did like this video, if you're a person that's dedicated to success, dedicated to a better life, make sure you like and subscribe. I have a lot more to share with you. I look forward to seeing you at one of my live events in the future or as a client on one of my paid mentoring programs.